Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to my Lunch and Learn, where each and every week we explore topics to help you elevate your mindset, be at your best, and radically expand your life and business. And today's topic is really exciting because we are talking about rewiring your brain right before breakfast. So, if you are a smart and driven professional woman who sometimes wakes up already behind, maybe your mind is racing, your to do list is spinning, or if mornings just feel super stressful instead of intentional, this is for you. Now, before we dive in, let me know where you're tuning in from. I want to welcome you. Type in replay in the chat if you're tuning in by replay as well. And if it's your very first time with us and with me, then type in first time in the chat so my team and I can welcome you and thank you for being here. So I do appreciate you and I appreciate your presence. Now, I know some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Larissa McCooch, Canada's leading abundance mentor, and I help professional women rewire their mornings and their mindset so they can show up clear, confident, and in control, not stressed and scattered or stuck living their lives on autopilot. Now, a few weeks ago, I created something magical for my community. It was so much fun. It's a brainchild I've birthed after thinking about it for about a year. And it's a series called Garden of the Mind. So it comes with a little workbook and it's beautiful. And there are so many gems of wisdom in there. But basically, this series is a week-long morning call process. And what you do is you go through this step by step, but it's designed to help you literally reprogram your mind. And what happens is your mind, we called it Garden of the Mind because there is a beautiful excerpt and in James Allen's work, he talks about the mind being like a garden and your brain and mind are essentially like a garden. It doesn't care what you plant, but whatever you do plant, it grows. So if you're planting weeds like old fears, stresses, limiting beliefs, they take over and they grow. But if you plant things intentionally, you'll grow things like confidence, focus, and success. And so the whole premise is for us to take some of these limitations that we've probably planted over the years and start literally weeding our mental garden, just like you would weed your actual garden. It is summertime, it is beautiful outside. And if you don't weed the garden, the weeds will take over and you're not going to get your tomatoes, you're not going to get your beautiful cucumbers, your peas, your beautiful flowers in your garden, whatever you're choosing to plant. If too many weeds take over, then you're not going to have the crop you desire. And so we were working with clients over the course of that entire week. Some even continued it on a couple more weeks because it was such a powerful process. But that's what we've got to do because your mind is like a garden. And it's a beautiful, beautiful metaphor. We've actually decided to open this mini series out to the public. So if you do want access, then type in garden in the chat, and it's not quite ready for distribution yet, but it will be very, very soon. So we'll add you to the wait list or definitely let you know how to access it as soon as it is available if you want to learn more about this Garden of the Mind series. But what I want to talk to you about today is how you can rewire your brain, rewire your mind before breakfast. And we're going to look at, let me talk about a couple of terms first. So first of all, there's this thing called neuroplasticity. And so if you're not familiar with that term, or if you're not a sciencey person, do not worry about it. We're going to keep it simple, but neuroplasticity is basically the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. So decades ago, years ago, the scientists used to think that the brain was fixed after childhood. So you're done being a child. Now the way you think is going to be set for life. And what's happened is scientists have done so many different studies to realize that the brain can actually change, evolve, grow, and develop. I was first introduced to this concept when I was working with a client that had had a stroke. And so I did a little extra research in this. I read a book by Norman Deutsch, The Brain That Changes Itself. Fabulous piece of work. An older piece of work, but still fabulous and super relevant. And he was talking about how even into people's 80s and even 90s, brains can learn, grow, evolve, and develop. They can change. They're not fixed. London taxi drivers, there was a study done around 2000 that looked at the brain changes after they would memorize really complex maps. So to be a taxi driver in London, you couldn't just rely on GPS. You actually had to know the routes, and these can get really complicated. And so before versus after, the taxi drivers didn't all start in their teens and 20s. They were older as well. And so they all had significant structural brain changes after memorizing these things. So you can absolutely train your brain. That is the cool thing. So no matter what's happened, no matter where you are, you can reprogram what's going on in there. So, second term is unconscious mind. And this is the part of the mind that is outside of your conscious awareness. So, you've got your conscious thinking mind. I like to think of the unconscious mind as the heart. And this is what runs your beliefs, your habits, your emotional responses. So, all of those feelings. And research shows that these unconscious processes, these are your unconscious mind ingests information at about 11 million bits of information per second, compared to the conscious mind, which is able to process up to 128 and often less. So if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule, like most of the results you get are from the least amount of work, this is more like 95-5 or even 99-1. So we're going to say 95% of your thoughts, your feelings, your actions are happening below the surface, outside of your awareness, and they are driving the bus. If you don't feel good, you can only force yourself for so long. The next term I want to cover is a psychological phenomenon where exposure to a stimulus influences later behavior without conscious intention. And so the term is called priming. Okay. And the most powerful time to prime, right, to get your brain ready is in the mornings, because your brain is in a receptive state. And so often, there was a study done in 1996 that found people that were exposed to words about aging, they walked more slowly right afterwards without even realizing it. And so if random words can shift behavior, right? If you don't want to focus on being older or slower, stop talking about it. Start pouring and priming the mind with good, empowering thoughts, good, empowering phrases, and it will make a world of difference to you. I actually wrote an article about the words not to use, words that you should be using, and words you should eliminate from your vocabulary. I wrote that probably about a week or two ago. So if you want access to that article, if you want us to pass it along, mention words not to use, and my team will send it over to you. It's in our blog. Now, repetitive thoughts, okay? Most of the thoughts you think on a daily basis are repeated. 95% or more of your thoughts are repeated from one day to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. If you've ever had a conversation with someone and they told you a story, and then a day or two later, they told you the same story, and then they told you the same story, and they told you the same story, and they have no idea they told you this. And you're like, I've heard this already. Imagine what's going on in the mind. These are just the words coming out of the mouth. And for most people, in most cases, 80% of those thoughts are negative. Why? Because they're just not aware of them. And once you start opening your eyes and turning on these rose-colored glasses and seeing the beauty and possibility in your life, you're going to start hearing a lot of things that come out of people's mouths that if they were aware, they would never ever say. And when you're aware of your language, you will start to shift it and adjust it so that you can clean it up. If you don't want to have negative results, right? speaking negatively is going to result in negative things, just like it's planting those seeds in the mind. So if left unchecked, your morning cycle is going to keep being in that stress loop. So you've got to watch the words. There are, when you first wake up, you're in the theta and alpha brainwave state, and this is the same state used in some hypnotic processes and deep meditation. And what's really cool about this is it makes the unconscious mind even more accessible, which is why what you do for the first 30 minutes to an hour every day makes it so influential. It I find out I often wake up and I have some amazing thoughts going through my head. And I'm like, I don't know where these things are coming from, but let me write them down. They are brilliant. But those come in the morning, and they rarely come at that rapid pace throughout the day because I'm just not in such a relaxed state unless I deliberately pause to meditate. There's visualization studies that have showed that participants who only visualized actually could increase their muscle strength by 13.5%. And so without even doing the exercise, they were able to get stronger, which is a really cool thing. They've tested a lot of athletes and Olympians with the same kind of strategy. Those who visualize and see it in their mind, what happens is the brain doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. Mental rehearsal it goes into the cells of the body. So it's so important, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a business athlete, whether you're a parental athlete, let's say a parental athlete, those are important too. And whether you just want a beautiful life, start taking the time to close your eyes and see the reality you want in your mind. Now, it sounds simple when I'm saying this. There's many steps involved. We've done many trainings and master classes on how to do this really effectively because it's easy for me to say, and I know I used to struggle a lot with this, and so I've done a lot of work in the visualization field so I can actually make it work for me and work for a lot of other clients as well. And there's also neurochemical impact. So stress hormones like cortisol, they peak 30 minutes after waking. And so when you have this intentional morning practice, it can actually redirect that spike towards motivation and focus instead of anxiety. Like, think about it. Do you want to wake up with your phone and going, oh my gosh, what do I have to do? What do I have to respond to? And get into this frantic mode? Or do you want to wake up seeing this dream life that you want, imagining your life and business flowing exactly how you want it to be, seeing the events of your day unfold with ease, with joy, with grace, and knowing that everything's going to work out for you? Might sound a little naive, but you know what? I like number two. I like option two so much better. And when I focus on option two, I have a pretty good life. And I know you can too. So what you do need to know is your brain is programmable. If you don't deliberately program it, and I'm using deliberate very deliberately, okay, I'm using the deliberate word deliberately. If you don't deliberately program your brain, the old beliefs and those automatic patterns are going to run the show. They're literally going to take over. And so an example is waking up and checking your emails, checking your messages. That is wiring stress as your baseline. Because do you feel good when you check your emails and you go, oh, how beautiful. Look at all these wonderful messages. Or you're going, there's so many messages. Oh my gosh, how am I going to get this all done? That's not going to feel good. Okay. So you want to start programming your mind with the reality you desire. Next thing you need to know is repetition plus emotion equals wiring. Okay. Repetition plus emotion equals your wiring. And so there are neural connections, and there's many connections between the brain and the body. And what happens is they strengthen with consistent repetition, not just with binging, right? You can binge for one day and it might have an impact, but until you do things with consistent repetition, until you build that muscle, your body's not going to feel comfortable or safe doing these things. It's not going to be used to it. It's not going to have the same impact. And you also want to make sure that there's emotional intensity. Now, this was another one that was really hard for me as well. I used to have people say, get emotionally involved. And I'm like, oh, how do you do that? And I kept asking, like, just keep trying, just keep trying. And it took me a long time before I found really simple ways to be able to get emotionally involved. And they're predictable and they work for me and they work for my clients. And it's like, oh, well, this is not the only way, but this is one really, really good way. I found several really simple ways to get emotionally involved. And we want to get emotionally involved in a constructive way. So let's say you're journaling about a new goal or a new project. And when something is new, you're like, oh my goodness, like you might be a little nervous at it. You're like, it's exciting and this is awesome, but am I really good enough? And maybe you're trying to affirm that you're calm, you're capable, you're competent. And so you journal about how calm, capable, and competent you want to be, but in the back of your mind, you're going, "Psh, no way, you're so full of crap." Yeah, it happens. So if you've done that and you've talked back to yourself, that's a real thing. If you've moved past it, congratulations. But if you haven't, that's okay. But what's going to happen is no matter how many times you go, I'm calm, I'm capable, I'm confident, you're going to talk back to yourself, and you're going to have friction. And so that you might be repeating, but the emotion isn't aligned because there's a lot of self-talk in the back of your mind. So the wiring is going, oh, I don't know where I should go. So what we do simple things like I'm we bridge these things so that you can believe them. So I'm I'm more calm. I've decided I'm going to be more calm today than I was yesterday. I will do this action 10 times. And you know what? I know if I do this action 10 times, I will be more capable. I've committed to doing this 10 times, and holy moly, I can totally see myself being capable by the end of the day. That's amazing. I like the feeling of being capable. I like the possibility of capability. I I I love speaking with more confidence, and the more I take inspired action in this direction, the more time I spend in my planning process and in implementing these plans right away. You know what? I'm getting more and more confident by the day. Okay, I am becoming an even more confident person. So, can you hear I didn't just say, I am calm, I am capable, I am confident? Because if you're saying these things, I am is amazing. But if you don't actually believe it, bridge the gap for a little while, not forever, but for a little while until you can get to that point and do the work to get there. And do it consistently, do it consistently, do it consistently. I hope that's making sense. So it is something we really, really emphasize with clients, and it takes a teeny tiny bit to get, but once you do, all of a sudden it opens up a whole new world. And the other thing I really want you to know is in the morning, this is that golden window. These first few minutes are your brain's operating system for the day. So even if you just spend 5 minutes on visualization or gratitude, it will prime you for clarity and productivity. So, Neville Goddard, in his work, he talks about the concept of first thought, last thought. So, the first thoughts you think in the morning are what set your tone for the day. The last thoughts you think before bed are the thoughts you dream about all night long. These are beautiful, magical windows. In the morning, there are fewer distractions. People are still sleeping. You have quiet, you have time, and it really does set your tone for the day. So, in summary, neuroplasticity really does mean your brain can change. Priming means you can influence your day before it starts, and your morning is your most powerful chance to rewire. So, instead of taking the hard route, just go with the easiest route. Make those first few minutes count because it will change the landscape of how you show up in your life and in your business. Your family will benefit, you will benefit, you'll have more energy, you'll have better feelings. Those around you in your workplace will benefit. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so, the more you do it, the easier it gets. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Now, there is a 5-step formula that I want to just give you that we've used in our client calls and in many of my programs. This is not the only way to reprogram, but this is sort of a step-by-step process you can take to help make your brain receptive and go through the steps I just talked about. So first, learn. Read something, study a concept, find a YouTube video, or even a short. It doesn't even have to be long. These processes can take 5 to 15 minutes for the whole thing or up to an hour. So go learn something, go be inspired, find a quote, feed your mind something to lift you up that you want to learn, that you need to learn, that you are happy hearing. You can just search a term. We search terms like decision, motivation, energy, anything that makes you feel alive, commitment. There's a great TD Jakes video on YouTube about commitment. So go learn something, go study something, feed your mind. So you can do that for 2 minutes to 20 minutes, whatever you need, whatever you vibe. Next, apply to self. So this is where you journal and reconnect to your goals, your dreams, your ideal self, and really look at how this information can be applied to you, your goals, your life in a constructive way to make it even better. And as you're journaling, as you're really thinking about how these things can be added to your life to enhance it strategically, you want to use vivid language. You want to use very specific examples. Make it so simple that a 7-year-old could understand it or could even see it. Next, you want to take a little bit of time to actually close your mind or close your eyes, open your mind, close your eyes and go within. So see it, visualize it, replay the story, replay the vignette of what you wrote about. Imagine what it would look like, sound like, and feel like. And I'm saying see it. However, we have a client, she doesn't see pictures, but she hears things. She's very auditory. And so when we say see it, she hears it. So when I say see it, you close your eyes and you go there. You might have pictures, you might have sounds, you might have feelings or emotions or even physical feelings where you just go and you do the actions. Go do it your way. So see it is my term for embodying it, okay? Visualizing it, but it doesn't always just have to be with a picture. It doesn't have to be rushed, but you do want to take the time to really go there and notice your emotions along the way. Okay, so this is a big part. Once you're done, notice how your physical body feels differently. Notice how your emotions feel differently. Notice your confidence, notice your energy, notice your drive, your motivation, and use that as leverage and fuel to take the next action. You've got to go do something about it immediately while in spirit. Okay, don't let it sit, because if you're like, oh, great idea, I'll do this 6 weeks from now, you're never going to do it. But while you're in the zone, while you're in spirit, go action something that will move you, move your goals, move your life forward in a deliberate and purposeful way. And like I said, this whole process could take 5 minutes. It could take an hour. You decide how long you want to stretch each section out, but you learn, you apply, you see it, you acknowledge your feelings and action it. And once you do that, I promise you, your world will start to absolutely change. So like I mentioned, this is something that we do in the Garden of Your Mind series. We talk about things. We are actually deliberately weeding that mental garden. We're looking specifically in this series at some of the limiting beliefs that you've got, and we're evaluating them. And once you see those limiting beliefs, you can actually go do something about them. So really powerful process. And if you are interested in getting access to this series, mention garden in the chat below, and my team will let you know when it is ready and show you how you can access it. But in the meantime, your job is to start doing more in the mornings, whether it's with us, whether it's on your own. But go make your mornings count, because there are people out there. There are people out there in your family, in your workplace, everywhere, that are waiting for the gifts that you have to share. And it is I feel like it's your responsibility to go do something about it and create magic for yourself and for others out there. So go out, go shine, and go rewire your brain and body before breakfast. Bye for now.